Nice jog. So it's once again weekend preview time on our Facebook page. This week looking ahead to the international meeting at Cheltenham, and we're feeling pretty festive at Timeform today, aren't we? It's the staff Christmas party.
Yeah, won't get me wearing one of those Yorkshire curmudgeon. I said Yorkshire. I'm from Manchester. I shouldn't say that.
No, yeah. Lancastrian.
It's
really.
true. If you want to keep it on, you can. But
no, well,
there's 60 years of this company's great name being built up, and we're in danger of
ruin it with a £1 Christmas hat from Sainsbury's.
I'll try. You do it, and I'll try and take you seriously while we do it. So let's go.
No, I can already feel the telling off from upstairs if I keep it on. So we'll it's there in spirit, and it will come out at 5 o'clock.
Right.
So that will suffice. So the international meeting, of course, at Cheltenham. You've got 4 fancies on Friday and 1 on Saturday.
Yeah, well, Saturday obviously main race. I don't think it's a stellar renewal of another of these November-December meeting, new names for it, or new name in recent years. It's been all sorts. Traditionalists like to refer to them still as the Mackerson and the whatever, or the Murphys and all that sort of stuff.
Before my time.
It's Caspian Caviar now. I think they've got an ordinary renewal, no Carmore lock, but we'll kick off Friday anyway, mate.
Yeah, so 4 tips for us on the first day. A couple on ITV, a couple of them aren't. We start with the very first race, a Novices hurdle with quite a few nice types in there. Yeah,
it's a pretty good race, this. Laylaw would be one of the better bump horses around from last season. He's been turned over at short prices twice. First one, I think Tom Schumer himself said that he possibly might have got after him a bit soon. I don't think he was sure what he'd find, because in bumpers he was all about pace. And then he went to Ascot and was still in front. I think he lost a lot of momentum at the last, so I certainly wouldn't rule him out. But as far as we're concerned, also the best form is Somerville Boy, and he's gone very close. He never looked like beating Slate House, but I really rate that Tizard horse. Everybody seems to rate him. And Somerville Boy pushed him all the way. That was a Grade 2 event. It's a gorgeous looking horse. There's loads of scope to him. He was bought out of Irish bumpers for Tom George by the Brookhouses. So I think in a race where the likes of Laylaw, Western Rider might be overbet because of the bumper form, we've got here the horse who's achieved way more than anything else over hurdles, and that small stake, probably just a point on him. Somerville Boy, race 1.
So point win on Somerville Boy. On to race number 2, and just the 4 runners in this, and Novices Chase, but it looks very trappy and big yards represented here. Nichols, Tizard, Twiston Davis. Yeah,
I respect Tinton Theatre because he's a stayer, and this would be only his second run in a chase over a trip. They started him off over 19. He ran one day. I was down at Chepstow, and the trip was all wrong for him, and it was a race won by Finian's Oscar anyway. Sizing Tennessee is the pick for me though, and one of the reasons I'd like to play in this race is because I really don't rate Coastal Tiep. It fell in a race where what's his name, who runs later on this card, capitulated late, and then he went up to Aintree, was again made a shortish price, and he's just lazy and sluggish and big fences. You don't have the capacity to get away with mistakes at Cheltenham, as everybody knows. Sizing Tennessee, who's tipped up on his last 2 starts admittedly, has been around here, has jumped around here, and I think he's got the best form, courtesy of the race he would have won, but for falling 2 starts ago at the track.
So
again, it'd be a point that, because I think we'll be dealing with a fairly short price there, but hopefully Coastal Tiep is sufficiently short in the betting to make the market. If you fancy forecasts, I'd be sticking Tinton Theatre in for the second, certainly rather than Coastal Tiep.
So Coastal Sizing Tennessee there, actually, not Coastal Tiep. We've got an intruder in the room, so that's why I've completely lost my right.
Get lynched.
So go to the 155, skipping race number 3, and the Mares Novices Chase, first one on ITV.
Yeah,
10 runners, looks wide open.
It does. Market's early prices you've got there, Nick, favouring Miss Parfois, who's from the Honeyball stable and shaped okay on chasing debut. Looks a chaser really, and should make a better fist of things second time. And Theatre Territory's got a similar profile, placed but a respectable distance off the winner on only starting a chase. I'm looking at bigger prices here though. 2 intrigue me. 28 Guns for 1, who is a really sound jumper. She's got lots of experience, she's consistent, and she ran much better last time. But narrow preferences just for Time for West, because I don't think we've seen the best of this horse yet. Slight doubt as to what she finds under any circumstances, but I thought she won over 3 miles over hurdles despite the trip, if anything, and she was basically so far ahead of her mark then the trip was irrelevant. Wind back to what she did at Exeter, went up to 3 miles in a chase the other day, and she blatantly didn't get home, so she's back to 2.5. She's a strong traveller. John George Yard has had a real recovery, a real renaissance of late. I think she's still well enough 120 odd. She went through that Exeter race like a 130 mare, and if she can last out better because she's dropped in trip and it's just the trip that's been doing for her, I think I'm not saying she'll take a fair bit of beating, but she'll outrun those odds that we've got listed there.
Yeah, 7-1 at the moment. Is that a point or each way, or?
Yeah, probably back her each way actually. Point each way, because even if 2 power past her, I struggle to see many more than that doing it, because she'll travel through this race like the best horse. I've got no doubt about it. It's just a case of what she finds. But good jockey on our side, recovering stable, more than recovering. They're really flying at the minute, and a mare with a fair bit of potential still. Progressive hurdler who's had just 2 runs in a chase, and I think we've found the key to her with the drop in trip.
Okay, Time for West there then, and one more on the Friday, a Grade 3 handicap chase, and there's one here that's £4 clearing our ratings.
Yeah, and that's the one I'll be going with, Company Stooge and all that. But I'd have 2 points on this Robins Firth. This is a horse who, if there's a doubt, it's the fact that he's turning out fairly quickly after a race at Haydock when you were there, when it was bottomless. Yeah. We saw Bristol de May put up his Denman-esque performance in the Betfair Chase. Well tipped up earlier in the season, might we say, by colleague Ben Fernley on here. And Robins Firth got to the second or third last, it was, at Haydock, almost alongside the eventual winner, Chaser Spud, and lost all momentum with a bad mistake. The concern is that will have taken plenty out of him, because he's a horse that hasn't stood a load of racing, but he's off the same mark, and he went through that race like he's really well handicapped.
I remember he got a Sterling ride that day, didn't he? Held on to for a long time, and then came to win his race at Haydock. Yeah,
he's not necessarily an out-and-out stayer under those conditions, but Haydock got so bad that it was almost like a 4-mile race. Like, they were that legless. Yeah. And Robins Firth, without the mistake, would have been close to Chaser Spud anyway. I think it's well worth chancing to back up the promise of that run. Mr. E's put in actually overnight a similar price and does have a really, really good record fresh, but he's an out-and-out stayer, this horse, and he's now rising 10. Can he cope with a progressive, less exposed rival in Robins Firth? I'm not so sure. The Fav, as we said, what's his name? We mentioned him earlier. He's a horse that can look brilliant one day and then stop to nothing the next. You just don't know what you're going to get with him. He's nothing like as consistent as his form figures would have you believe. And there's been more than one occasion where, including that race that Coastal Tiep won, where he looks like the race is his, and off the bridle he's done nothing. It happened in a race with hardly any fences jumped at Aintree a year or so ago. So I think there's a slight question still as to what he does off the bridle, and I don't think that's the case with Robins Firth, and we're getting a bigger price than you are on what's his name.
And for the record, it is actually called What's His Name, we're not just making it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Got beat by Earl, What's His Name,
there'd be 20 What's His Names running on a card if I had my way, because I can't remember one horse from a meeting to the next.
So, just a point on Robins Firth then.
No, I'd go 2 actually. I mean, this horse, if you're judging our product, this horse should be 7-4. Clear Fav, and he isn't, so
could well be tomorrow. Yeah,
well, we'll see.
So over to Saturday, the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup, as you'd expect, very, very competitive. Clanders Oboe is the market leader, about 9-2 at the moment. Where would you look in this?
Not him really, because he is top rated and his form's stacking up well. He's unexposed, just his second season, all that jazz. But he's a horse who's tend to be most effective for me in smallish fields where he's almost bullying the opposition. He's pitched into something a bit deeper here against more hardened horses, likes of Starkitect, who's been around in loads of these big races. Le Prezienne's been a fixture in them as well for the last year or so. But my selection here will be Ballyalton. I can definitely see the case of King's Odyssey. If people have been part of the gamble on him, I can totally understand why they would have been, but his price has gone a bit now. Bear in mind he was tanking through this race last year when he unseated, and he's only a pound higher than when he won at the track in the Novice Handicap, so he must be interesting. But another prior winner of that Novice Handicap, Ballyalton, who has had 2 runs in handicap chases, He's won one at the Cheltenham Festival, and in his other, he's finished 4th on only his second run back in the November version of this race. Bet Victor as is now, I think. So, for me, he's entitled to come on again. Apparently he lost a shoe that day as well. That could easily explain why he wasn't as stout in the finish as you might have anticipated. And for me, he's just an interesting horse here, and you've been able to back him at twice the price of Clanders Oboe. This Ballyalton thrived in this sort of scenario before. We're still up in the air as to whether Clanders Oboe will relish it or not. For that reason, I'm in, as Duncan Bannatyne never used to say.
Quick note on Splash of Ginger, of course.
Yeah.
Wanted a big price here last month. Can he repeat the trick or tougher?
It almost feels like if you've not attended the wedding, don't go to the funeral. And if you've backed him at 33s or whatever he was the other day, I mean,
I 40s,
I basically couldn't believe he won, in the sense that he'd not been running well at all. He'd run a bit better the time before, in fairness, but more you're like afterwards, well, had a lot of back class, maybe you could make a case for him. I'm just not sure this horse will do the same thing twice in a row, and he had a really punishing race that day. Him and Le President and Star Architect were all involved in a slugfest towards the end. That's taken the edge off a few of them, because the ground was bottomless, as everyone saw. It's not going to be as bad, I don't think, this weekend. Hopefully not, anyway. There's a chance Clanders Oboe wins it on the bridle and is en route to Grade 2, Grade 1 company, because he does have the stamp of that sort of horse. But it's a different test for him in terms of field size and competitiveness of race. So I'd be each way at 8s plus, 7s plus Ballyalton.
1 point?
Yeah, a point each way on him.
And then just quickly to touch on the feature of the weekend, the international hurdle. Usually a few champion hurdle clues in here, one way or the other, and we've got opposite ends of the spectrum. We've got the old guard in terms of the new one and My Tent or Yours, and old guard.
Yeah,
and Mellon, who was second in the Supreme last year and made a really pleasing comeback.
Yeah, he did, and he's the one who's been the subject of all the cash this week. I mean, it's been very much a one-sided market. I don't think I'll bet in this, but I can envisage a repeat of last year with My Tent or Yours travelling really well, but just getting the finish run out of him by the new one, who I thought enhanced his. He's been a very lovable horse down the years, of course he has, and everybody seems to have a soft spot for him. But I think even after his reappearance winning the Welsh champion hurdle against a well handicapped one of Klein of Evan Williams I think his 4th in the Greatwood was as solid a performance as he's put in for ages. A repeat of that, I think, might be enough, but Mellon's clearly got the capacity to improve a bit more, and the dogs have been barking. I'll sit that race out. It looks like a poison carrot almost, that. You think that's too big, he should be shorter, but we could be fielding against something a bit special in Mellon, so I believe in that race. Just watch it. On
a personal note, if I could own any horse in training, you'd do much worse than the new one, wouldn't you?
Oh, you would, yeah. I mean, I'd have a fair few candidates. Old Guard's not too shabby. He always pitches up to these big events.
Most have been this race, to be fair.
I don't think I want to. I think after the Betfair hurdle, I wouldn't have wanted to own My Tent or Yours. You're giving me a fair few annoyances. You'd be a bit frustrated with him by now.
Anyway, we're off for a shandy at 5 o'clock, aren't we? So
just shandy for me. Doncaster tomorrow.
Oh, are you? Oh well, best of luck at Doncaster, and we'll see you after Christmas.
Cheers, Nicola. Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
You can take your Christmas hat to Doncaster tomorrow.
Yes, that won't be happening.